Thank you. I don't need that. Just turn it off. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. I want to thank Global Sciences for inviting me here. Dean, I want to thank all of you for coming. I'm wired everywhere. And I want to thank my wife, because if it wasn't for her, I would not be speaking any longer. I want to just give you a brief background on how this all started for me. I grew up, for the most part, in Elk Grove Village, Illinois, and my grandparents had a cabin up in Woodstock, Michigan, which is in northern Michigan. And we were up there in August of 1964, and I experienced missing time. We had gone out to play into the fields, and I laid down in the tall grass, and I can remember throwing chestnuts out of the way to create a place for myself to lay. And when I fell asleep, and when I woke up, it was almost going on 9 o'clock. And I remember getting up and running back to the picnic area where the family was, and there was a police dog, a Michigan State police car there, and my folks and cousins, because it was kind of a family thing because everybody goes back to school. And I got the tar licked out of me for disappearing, and I told them where I had been, and they didn't believe me, so I took them back to where I was with the flashlights, and sure enough, there was my body imprint, and they swore they had been all through that area looking for me. It wasn't until age 14 that I actually understood what had happened then. I went to bed. It was just a normal night. It was in October. When I woke up, and there were two men looking down at me. And they were human beings, except they have no hair. And their skin is light blue, or at least Morine, the very large one. His skin is light blue. Phaseus is the elderly one, and I'll give you a brief background on them. Has turned white because of his age, but they are blue-skinned. They say that they are our cousins, and that we actually have some of their genetics inside of us. They originally came from Lyra, as all human life did in our galaxy. Human life does exist in other galaxies as well. And there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on. Okay. I was taken out of bed many times. I was given information, I was given physicals, I was given brain scans, I was shown, they put a little cap on my head and they showed me who I was in past lives and my direct connection to them and my connection to the earth. And then there were no more contacts after age 14. There was one at 16, but it was a physical. I was not awakened. It wasn't until 1985 that the contacts started again on a regular basis. Sorry about that. Okay. Now, just to give you an idea of where I was in 1985, I had worked for a few years for the Internal Revenue Service. I had been a tax collector, and I was assigned to and I'm ashamed to say it, but I was a good tax collector. And for the lady and the people who were talking about the IRS, I'm just going to give you this while it's hot and it's fresh. I was assigned to a task force that was supposed to do undercover work for oil company fraud. And our training was to be in Washington, D.C., and while I was there, I used my security pass to get into the National Archives. And you're not allowed to really make copies of things when you're in the National Archives unless your security clearances was much higher than what mine was. And I'm going to tell you this as having been with the Internal Revenue Service. The Internal Revenue Service is a Puerto Rican trust. It is a 3-tier trust. I don't know what the third tier is, which is the bottom line, but it's Internal Revenue Service, Puerto Rican Trust, Trust number 62, and I can't tell you what the third one is because it wasn't there.
I have that information.
Great. People need to know. Also, none of the federal income tax laws are actually in the Federal Register, therefore they are not laws. They are codes. You also need to be aware of that. Anyway, I left the Internal Revenue Service and I opened up my own accounting practice. I started helping people with IRS collection problems because that's not something that you can learn going to tax school or going to a university. You have to have on-the-job training. Well, I started my practice, took the CPA exam. For 5 years, I had a practice in Beverly Hills and Malibu. I was living on a 700-acre horse ranch in Malibu at the time the context restarted. Now, within 2 months of the context restarting, I totally walked away from my tax practice. And I just realized that a lot of it was just BS. And it just wasn't working for me. I had made some major shifts in a very short time. The contacts have been relatively continuous. They're both physical as well as telepathic. And folks, some of this information is going to be enlightening. Some of it's going to really bother you. And I'm sorry to be the one to have to tell you that we have a very serious problem on our hands. Okay? And it is just not the federal government. It just is not. There is a much bigger scheme going on here. And it involves extraterrestrials who are interested in us as souls. You might refer to the Bible, you might refer to whatever texts or religion you have, but there definitely is a battle of good and evil going on out there, and part of it has to do with us and our solar system because of its location and the minerals that are here. The regressives, and we're going to talk a little bit about that after I show you the moon pictures, don't give a damn about us. We are a natural resource. Okay? Be really clear when I say this. We are a natural resource to them. They don't care who you are inside. They don't care. As far as the federal government, we watched the movie Rob Roy the other night, and there was a line in that movie that sums it up perfectly. The government believes truth to be a lie undiscovered. But that's really where it's at. That's really where it's at. They are so screwed up that I don't believe they even really remember what the bottom line is now. Okay. As some of you are familiar with Hoagland's information, I think Richard does a good job, but I'm just going to share with you a personal experience that I had with Richard in Los Angeles. I was speaking in Los Angeles. I've spoken along the West Coast quite a bit, in Texas. And there was somebody from Showtime who was doing a private screening in a hotel room of the movie Roswell, the Showtime movie Roswell they put together. Well, I was invited to go in there. Well, Richard was sitting in the back on a chair. And I'm not reading any more into this. I'm just sharing with you my experience with him one-on-one. I sat down to him and I just looked him straight in the eye, and he didn't have a clue who I was. And I said, Richard, why don't you tell people that the moon is an artificial satellite? And he just looked at me and he says, I'm not ready to. All right? That's my personal experience. It's the only one I have. I think his information is good. But I'm telling you, from my own experience, he's withholding. And I don't understand why he's withholding.
I can verify that.
Okay? Because you, me, our children, our grandchildren, and our great-grandchildren are the ones at stake here. You know, we don't have anywhere else to go. We don't have any place to hide. This planet is our home. It's our home. And I'm just trying to help. I only have a piece of the puzzle. I don't have the whole puzzle. I think if I did, I'd be dead a long time ago. But I'm going to share with you stuff that I have been guided to that's on the far side of the moon. I don't deal with the visible side. Because as the right hand is moving here, the left hand's doing something else. Well, the left hand is the far side of the moon. If you remember the movie Apollo 13, if you remember the movie Apollo 13, what? Move over? Oh, it's the lights. Okay. If you remember the movie Apollo 13, all hell's broken loose. They don't know if they're getting home. But they were so concerned about checking out and taking pictures of the far side of the moon. And here they are, they can't get home, but their focus wasn't on getting home, it was seeing what was on the far side of the moon. That is a true enactment, folks. Now I'm going to show you some of the things that are there. Now so you may have trouble adjusting your eyes to seeing some of this. Some of the things you will not have any trouble whatsoever. These photographs, I was told specifically where to look, were taken by the Lunar Orbiter 4 from August of 1966 to August of 1967. They show so much.